All right, here we go. Hey, everybody! It's a Friday edition of Burns and Holla. Terry Holloman, my normal co-host, is doing what reasonable people should do. He's taking the weekend off, and it's weird that even though we are in this crazy time loop, the weekend still sort of has a feel to it. Like I still look forward to Fridays. I'm not sure why, because they don't look that much different than my Tuesdays now, but it's still kind of exciting when it comes around. And Terry wanted to be a part of this because he was a punk rock skateboarding kid who grew up in Edmonton and found an empty pool, like so many of us did. Growing up listening to Suicidal Tendencies and Minor Threat. But like I said, he's got a family who would rather be on the beach than sit at home and do a webcast. And that's understandable. Yeah. Yeah, I get that. But first, let me introduce everybody that's with us. From the Dollyrots, Kelly and Louise. Dollyrot.
How's it going?
Thanks for joining us. From Teenage Bottlerocket, currently, Kody Templeman, a.k.a. Moose.
What up?
And Mass Giorgini, best known for, I mean, what do you think you're best known for, Mass?
Iguana production.
Iguana, yeah, the studios that produced like literally every third record that I bought for about 15 years. So I wanted to have you all on to talk about the state of punk rock, because you're all in punk rock bands, the state of punk rock in 2020. And there's a lot of different aspects to that. I first wanted to start with the political aspect of punk rock, because punk in some ways has always been inherently political. And I wanted to know if you were out touring right now and if you were out speaking to audiences. I'll start with you, Kody. How much would you be talking about any of this, in between songs, the way that Jeff Ott used to for way too long?
We probably wouldn't be talking about anything. Like we just we avoid like political stuff just because we're there to have fun, and we hope the people that come to see us are there to have fun. So we just try to not to rock the boat with that kind of stuff. I mean, we all have our personal beliefs and everything, but to each their own.
Mass, I mean, do you feel like should because I remember in the 2004 election, Fat Mike put together a compilation called "Rock Against Bush," which was designed to inspire the younger youth, the younger people to vote who never vote, and it sold well. But in the end, John Kerry wasn't the victor over George W. Bush. So, are you kind of in the same mindset as Kody is? Like, let's keep punk just sort of fun and an escape from the realities of our political landscape?
I'm a bit torn. Obviously, if you look at the Ramones, they didn't get very political. And part of the reason was not so much that they didn't have views, but that the views within the band were so different from one another. Where you had Joey, who decidedly left, and then Johnny, who was quite far to the right. So, in fact, they fought about it.
Well, Johnny at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction said, "Thank God for Preston Bush." Like, that's yeah. So they had a lot of differences. If you want to keep loving the Ramones, stop watching any documentary about the halfway point, because it starts to get really sad.
Yeah, but I would say that despite that, and of course, who's a better example as the birth of punk rock than the Ramones, really? But almost everything that followed, and then if you look at the real, when I don't want to call it the real punk to imply in any way that the Ramones weren't really punk, because they are, but they were all major label bands. All those the early wave, the American wave with Ramones, and then Sex Pistols and Clash were major label bands. But if you look at the birth of the DIY punk scene, which really is U.S., Black Flag, Dead Kennedys, and then on the other coast, Minor Threat, that was all very political. And it was decidedly left. And even though Squirtgun, you wouldn't consider Squirtgun a political band at first view, I mean, it was rare for us to play a show without mentioning something political, because all of our songs have little hints of different kind of social political topics in them. So it's hard for me to try to not say something, but I would hate to make the show a political thing, because how can you in a 3-minute punk song say anything really meaningful?
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not saying you can't say anything,
Or
but
surprising.
I've heard something with a 3-minute punk song screaming the same chorus 3 times, you know? I just think it's best you leave a lot to the audience. You can say a few words or maybe make a small point, but otherwise it comes off preachy. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and Kelly and Luis, I would guess that a lot of times if kids are showing up to punk shows, you know, there's not very many Johnny Ramones out there who turned out to be conservatives. It seemed like it would be a lot of preaching to the choir.
Yeah, and I mean, our band, you know, we talk about this in a lot of interviews or whatever, but on the surface, you know, we just want to be fun, sweet, like bubblegum punk, you know. But if you ever look at our lyrics, it's kind of depressing, and it does get political. We put at least one political song on every record.
And then we end up getting ourselves in trouble by saying a political thing. And it's like, right. Oh my God, how?
Yeah, but I mean,
what are you, like, communists? And you know,
yeah, my bass cabinet is spray painted with "Not My President" with, you know, George W. Bush's face, and you know, I think we covertly are political, but that's not what the band is about. You know, as individuals, man, on my personal Facebook page, I'm in a fight every day about politics with, you know, the asshole dads of my friends from high school growing up in Florida. Like, I mean, today, I spent an hour
right now.
But you know, as far as the band goes, you know, we try to keep it happy,
because it should be like a communal escape from all the rest of that stuff.
Yeah, for us too.
You know, it's like it's a time to have a party, kind of, right? And so you don't, like, the last thing you want to do is like harsh everybody's buzz at the party by coming in and being like, hey, so did you hear what happened on C-SPAN today? or
right, yeah.
You know, so but you can't help it. We're very open with the people that care about what we do. So you can't help but kind of blurt it out every now and then on accident or whatever.
Yeah, like, I mean, there was no way that the band was going to get away with not making a Black Lives Matter post or, you know, sharing some of that stuff. And, you know, there was blowback, but I really don't give a shit.
But I
would have felt fake by not saying something, because what am I protecting the people that I think are assholes?
And it's not like we're signed to a big label or
nobody gives a shit what we say.
You know,
so.
We don't have
a freedom to that. Well, actually, there's a freedom to not suffering any when you work for yourself, not suffering any repercussions.
Yeah,
and that's a new freedom that I'm discovering, because I've always worked for bigger entities, and it's weird now with social media. You're never really off the clock. Like you could, when I used to be able to leave the job, you could go home and just say whatever the fuck you wanted at the local bar, and it wouldn't mean that your boss would call you into the HR office. But now, if you go home and tweet something that you actually believe, suddenly, you know, you're in trouble come Monday.
Yeah.
Just don't get caught at a Walmart and, you know, being labeled a Karen or something. Then you'll definitely be down.
So I've been furloughed, actually. So I've been furloughed since March. So, you know, I'm just hustling to do whatever. So I've put out this plea almost every show. One of the couple of shifts I do is at a grocery store. If you want to come and have a confrontation with me and not have a mask on and just treat me like garbage so I can start a GoFundMe, we'll split the proceeds 50.
Yeah.
Where
do you live? We'll just like pretend to be outraged.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned you didn't want to bring down the party with, you know, the political comments, but none of us are really having parties anymore, and none of you are really on tour anymore. And Kody, I'll go back to you. Does this feel like a nice break, or are you just really itching to get back in front of a live crowd?
At first, it was a nice break for sure. Like, we were kind of talking about taking it easy this year anyway, and then we got forced into it. But yeah, I think everybody's itching to get back out and play again.
What is it that you miss the most about it? I mean, is it because I was in a really crappy punk band in Utah for like a year, and what I missed most about it was like my bar top at the end of the night was $0. I think that was
that always helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. I miss, like, we have friends everywhere, and I don't know, like, I don't usually keep in touch with people very well when we're not on tour. So it kind of sucks. Like I miss like some of my friends in Europe and pretty much everywhere in the US and stuff. So it's nice to be able to see people and hang out, and even to see like the dudes in the band and stuff. Like it's from Canada, so hasn't even been able to get into the country to do anything. So
well, it's a lot easier for him to get here than for you to go see him. We are not welcome right now in Canada. I'm a dual citizen, so I can sneak across, but even then I would feel bad. Yeah. And I actually wouldn't even want to face my relatives who always tell me that America should be doing better because I have no defense. I have no defense at this point. Mass, how are you feeling about this, this respite that the entire, musical community is taking?
Well, because of the nature of my involvement lately with music, it hasn't changed a ton for me on a day-to-day basis. Majority of what I do with music right now is mixing and mastering, which means I do it alone anyway.
Right.
I'm getting files from bands, and I work on them, and then I send them rough mixes, and we kind of go back and forth a little bit, and I'll do masters. And my clients right now tend to be just all over the place, and I don't see them in person. So it's kind of it's amazing how little changed for me on a day-to-day basis. And I was playing a little bit more lately, but a little bit more means every year I make sure to play at least one show.
Right.
Which so far hasn't affected me because I played a show last year. In fact, the last time I performed live was on stage with Kody playing bass as a guest on a Lillingtons tune.
Right.
And right before that, Squirtgun played like maybe a few sets earlier. But since I hadn't planned anything yet, it hasn't been a big thing. The only bummer was we had kind of thought we'd start getting together with Squirtgun, new lineup of Squirtgun, to work on some music. And instead everyone's kind of just doing some songs on their own where they're based. So hopefully that means that by the time we actually get together, we'll have a whole album's worth of tunes and we can record them. But
yeah. It's weird that, when the Postal Service put out the record, it was like kind of revolutionary. Now I feel like that's how most bands are probably putting together whatever they're putting out next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Dollyrots, you're performing from home on stage some acoustic. How was that just coming from a need that like I have to do something?
Partially, it was kind of almost, we felt like it was like community service or something. Because everyone was stuck at home, and I don't know, we just figured, hey, let's do something once a week to kind of just raise some spirits or something.
Yes, have a get together.
And so we did it, and then we kind of, I don't know, we have to talk about the parent thing real fast because like that became...
we started doing stages about 7 years ago when I was pregnant because we had to stop touring. We're married. We have 2 kids. They are now 6 and 3. And so we had to change the way that we worked as a band anyway. Yeah. And so we'd been doing stages for a long time. So it wasn't that weird for us to transition into it. It's almost like I've just been pregnant, but thank God I'm not. So,
and so what happened is the pandemic hit, and all of a sudden we don't have any, like, you can't call a babysitter over to your house.
No.
I don't have COVID, So it was just like, let's have
I guess the kids are going to be in the shows.
There. And so now people they want to see the kids more than they want to see us, And I'm
I wish we could just go back to being us, but everyone's like, no, we want to see the kids and the chickens. We got chickens, and
so it's like some Partridge Family shit. I don't know. We'll just roll with that. But as long as it like brings music to people,
it makes people feel good,
and it's live, and it feels spontaneous, and it feels good. And when you get done with the show, it's like, damn, we just played a show.
Yeah, it really does feel like a show.
It really does. So we're gonna do that every now and then. We can't stay on a once a week clip. It's too hard. But because we're not 6 years old anymore.
But it's true. Like people are just desperate for content. Like I watched someone make pierogies via live stream, and just like
she's watching people like pressure wash stuff.
I love it. I'm sorry.
And I don't know if my standard of entertainment is just because I know that we have more content than we've ever had. Like if this happened in 73, could you imagine? Like,
Holy cow.
I don't know. We wouldn't even know that this kind of stuff was available.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
how many times can you watch the MASH finale?
Oh my God.
But I don't even trust myself anymore when it comes to how much I enjoyed new films. Like I talked for like 2 days straight about Ben Affleck's The Way Back.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Because it was new.
Yeah.
And he's a, it's just another Bad News Bears, like Coach Carter type story, like a bunch of ne'er-do-wells. And my favorite part is that he's got a drinking problem. And one of the early scenes is like he's in the shower, but he's got a beer in the shower with him, just to let you know, like it's this bad.
Actually, that sounds delicious.
I like doing that after I mow the lawn. Is that wrong?
But I remember I was like, oh my God, this is the best film of the year, because it was new. Like it wasn't just watching, Goodfellas again for the 17th time, or old episodes of whatever. But how is, you're all creative people. What are you consuming right now besides people power washing? That's holding your interest, Kody?
Shit, I don't know. Anything really. I don't know. I'll scroll through Facebook and find videos of cat videos, or I don't know, dudes on motorcycles, like the Red Bull shit, like where they're doing the crazy mountains and stuff, like.
Right.
And I'm game for anything. I'm bored.
I think we all are. Yeah. Right. Maz, what about you? Is there? I always just love new recommendations too.
I know we're living it, right? But I've gotten into this crazy kick of trying to read every single dystopian novel, that I can find.
Right.
And I mean, you would not believe how many there are.
Why write about any other kind of future? That's like, no one ever writes about a peaceful, other than Bill and Ted. Like no one ever talks about like a better future. It's always a dystopian future.
But I've been impressed by a few things. Surprised me. Like for one, lots of dystopian novels have been written by Pulitzer Prize winners, Man Booker Prize winners, of course, Nobel Prize winners, and so I've been, first of all, reading all the classic ones, and then going through and finding Pulitzer Prize winners who have written dystopians and Nobel Prize winners. But one thing that I did not guess, like I thought, okay, dystopian novels, it's a dude thing, especially like a high school dude sitting, like almost incel style stuff.
Yeah.
They're going to read their dystopian novels. But no, the biggest volume of high quality dystopian novels have been written by women. And I didn't realize it, but the first classic dystopian novel was actually written by Mary Shelley. So it was a women's genre to begin with. And that was called Last Man Standing. And it reads in a very modern way right now because of everything we've lived through.
Like Frankenstein, Mary Shelley?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I did not know that.
And the pandemic now, is amazing how many topics we're living through, maybe not in as severe or to the same degree, but definitely in some kind of a germ form, we're there,
Yeah.
That's a big kick.
Yeah. Does it feel like you're like looking into the future, like I mean, it's real though, right? Like,
it's weird how much. There's one novel which I had not heard of, and this woman wasn't a big prize winner, but the title got me because the title of the book was Song for a New Day, which sounded an awful lot like Anthem for a New Tomorrow by Screeching Weasel. Funny enough, one of the songs on the Anthem for a New Tomorrow by Screeching Weasel is called Leather Jacket. There's a chapter in the book called Leather Jacket. And it's about a performer who is living through a pandemic that destroys society. And because of that, the politicians take advantage and rain down an authoritarian kind of rule, and they ban performances of bands because they're afraid that people will rise up.
Sounds about right.
You can tell that the author has lived the punk rock life because the way she describes the shows, the environment of the scene, and it's a really good book. I mean, I think it stands up with some of the Pulitzer Prize winners. So if you're bored and you want to check out a really cool book that's connected to the punk scene, pandemics, and authoritarian rulers, you can't do better.
That's the one.
Just put a link to it. It's like an Amazon link.
I think it's Insker is her name. I meant to write her just to say, hey, this may be a coincidence, but we have a lot of weird overlaps in our lives.
With a recent book, or like
out in 2019. It's like really prescient if you think about it.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good.
The political thing you might have been able to predict already. I mean, I've seen, that I think a lot of us have kind of felt for years now, but the pandemic part, wow.
Yeah, if you're an author who wrote a book in the past about like an authoritarian leader rising during a pandemic, right now you're like, fuck yeah, I'm so glad I wrote that book, because that shit is gonna sell. There was a weird anniversary like 2 weeks ago. Rancids and Out Come the Wolves turned 25.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of stuff used to weird me out, like, oh wow, this means I'm old. But now I find it gratifying and like thrilling almost that they're still around, they're still plugging away. Tim Armstrong is now Tim Timebomb. He co-starred literally in an episode of The X-Files. If you didn't know that,
Really?
please watch the episode with Tim Armstrong as a main character in The X-Files. It's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. Because he acts just like he sings at his most slurry version of himself. But I've been listening to more of the stuff that I grew up on. MTX, as you mentioned, Screeching Weasel, the Lillingtons. I have to say, I don't know why, Kody, but Phantom Maggot is like, if I exercise, has to be the first song on my playlist. There's just something about the chord change when you say straight out of a comic book that just like propels me to go now about like 5.1 miles per hour. It used to be like 7, but
Hitting up on
yeah.
Well, it's a very uplifting song, It's the maggot who aspires to be something more. It's like exercising,
Totally.
trying to make something better of yourself.
Exactly.
The right message.
And I this is what I wanted to have you been taking this time to rediscover old favorites or pursue because usually a lot of us are much busier than we are right now. And I'll start with the Dollyrots. Like, what are you listening to? Are you kind of comforted by pre-COVID stuff? Like, this reminds me of where I was when, or right?
At least me personally, I've got my like Apple Music subscription, and I just set up my playlist with bands that I see on like hashtag punk, hashtag whatever, with new stuff that comes up, and then I'll just make a playlist and listen to it all. And half of it, I'm like, this isn't punk. This is right. And then the other half of it, I'm like, wow, these kids are like doing something that sounds like a cross between, like old 4AD stuff and like old like DC stuff, and then old like SST stuff. Like they have a very like certain aesthetic that's super genuine sounding and kind of gritty and not produced at all. And I like it, even the stuff that sounds too drony or kind of like shoegazery or whatever, I still can appreciate what they're listening to. It's almost like they're combining like aggressive, harsh stuff with like psychedelic, and that maybe they're speaking to themselves. They're not speaking to me because like, I'm older, but yeah, I like the new shit. I think it's
Well, I appreciate it because lately the last 3 or 4 times, and part of it I like, but part of it is sort of disappointing. When I go to a punk show, I'm the median age there. Most people are 40 and above, which is kind of like, oh, okay, there's other people like this whose growth is stunted. But then it's also like, well, where are the new bands coming up?
Yeah. Well, we all only like the music we listened to when we were 14 or 15.
True. Or is that true?
It's true, man.
Okay, good.
So the other day I turned on like Never Mind the Bollocks and just rocked that stuff down the interstate. I was just like, wow, this sounds way better than I remember. So we can all appreciate that, but we have to recognize that music's always going to, evolve, and there's going to be electronic beats. Guitars will be minimized, even though I'm a guitarist and I hate to say it, but there aren't too many guitars.
You always need bass, though.
You need bass, though. So she's
Always.
got a job.
And they're always so hard to find.
Security. So.
Kody, what about you? I've always been curious about this too, analysis of Kody, because again, I put out one really bad EP, and I don't like listening to it because it's like, ew, my voice is terrible. Is there ever a discomfort level of like listening to yourself played back?
Oh, I hate it.
Yeah, there definitely was for a long time. Like, I don't know. It took a long time for me to get used to hearing it and stuff. Now it doesn't bother me as much. But yeah, I think everybody kind of hates their own voice, especially their voice, like listening back to that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I can only sing in the key of A too. So it was always like my band's limitations. I'm like, that's not in the key of A. We can't play it. Sorry. We're a new band, former side project. I don't know what to do for you. What about you, Mass? Because like your life is primarily putting together as other people's records. When you then put together your own, is there like a different standard that you set or anything? Or
well, I'm often told that I'm quite anal about how picky I am about performances.
Yeah,
I'm sure Kody will agree because he's been through that. Although he sings perfectly, so it's kind of hard to get too picky with him.
Well, you did that by television by the Lillingtons.
Yeah, I mean, that dude is like one of the best performers ever, right there, Moose. But yeah, with me, it's amazing. Like if I start to write a song, I'll actually play like a chord and I'll go, oh no, that chord's been played before. That's the way I've gotten it. It's just ridiculous because I overanalyze myself so that I don't follow my own rules. Like I always tell bands when they're trying to write a song or finish one, I'm like, just puke your brains out, play what comes naturally, and then critique it. And I'm like, because you don't really know if it's going to suck until you're done. And then if it sucks, why did it suck? If you have a bad verse, change the verse.
Right.
Make it better. Some of the lyrics are stupid, change them.
Yeah.
I always try to encourage people to just throw something out because you have to start if you want to fix it and make it better. But yet with myself, I'm just horrible that way. I start trying to play a riff and I'm like, well, that riff's been played before.
That's because you're a producer, Mass.
I get too anal with myself on that kind of stuff. But I am still having a lot of joy listening to records that come out and I'll get excited about it. And it's not always punk rock, but the most recent one, my brother Flav, who's the guitarist in Squirtgun, original guitar player, he contacted me this weekend and said, Mass, the new Pretenders album sounds like it should have come out in 1975.
So good.
Well, I didn't know the Pretenders put out something new.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's so original era Pretenders. It could have been their third album is what I'm thinking. And I was a huge Pretenders because, they were on that cusp of like that poppy rock, but also punk.
Yeah.
The first Damned. She was the original singer when they were called Masters of the Backside before they became the Damned. And she was born right out of that punk scene. And she was American, but she was in England when all that stuff was exploding. And so the Pretenders were born right out of that. And to hear something that's still kind of fresh and has some of that spirit from that era coming out now from someone who I'm not even sure her age is. She's probably like late 60s.
I would assume, yeah, that she has to be.
It's inspiring. And does her voice sound good, So that's just one example. But I do like a lot of the new stuff that I've heard. And there are bands all over the U.S. that sound great. And right now I'm working on one that's been kind of fun for me too. Actually, a former bandmate of the Dollyrots, Ricky's current band, well, one of her current bands, because she's always in a million. L.A. Machina. Doing all the mixes and mastering for their.
Sounds awesome, dude.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Been really happy with
it. It's really good. Yeah.
Kelly Louise, do you know someone named Susie Pratt?
Oh, hi,
Yeah.
Susie.
What's up?
I'm wondering if it's the same Susie Pratt that I went to college with. That would be really weird.
Is she a scientist?
Is she what?
Is she a scientist?
Oh, probably based on her personality. She had a very scientist.
I worked with Susie at a genetics lab in Los Angeles. Like we were working on like testing for viruses and stuff like back in like 2005 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually like it was like I guess I gotta go on the road. So like
yeah,
I like leave that job or whatever. But we worked together like we were just basically like testing for like HIV and HCV and whatever.
red hair. She had red
blonde hair.
hair. Okay, then maybe not the same one. But
I almost bought her own van.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
So the last thing that I wanted to talk about before we sign off, and again, thanks everybody for coming aboard. Is there anything that you're ashamed of liking right now? I mentioned the way back, but I'm not really ashamed of it. But there's definitely other shows that I've gotten way too into to the point where it's like I've almost created like anonymous, usernames just to comment on whatever show boards they have because I'm getting too emotionally wrapped up in them. Is there anything like that you're experiencing in your life that's this new passion that never would have happened without the pandemic?
Oh, I'm trying to think.
Oh, it's probably ours is like definitely going to be a kid's show or something.
Yeah.
It's
So
like,
a lot of people have a lot more time right now, but unfortunately, we're just kind of drowning.
we're just homeschooling, man.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
As far as
How's that?
homeschooling, I have a morning show on XM radio. It's a 4-hour morning show, 5 days a week. And I'm drowning. Like between the kids being home all the time, homeschool, that, and then we're trying to write a record, and then we get back here at night, which is our time to write. And I'm like, do we just write a song about the pandemic again? Like, what do we write about? Like, I don't even know what to write about.
Quarantine.
Yeah, it's just like, no.
It's just like, yeah, enough of those.
Could you write a song? Because I feel like this would be such a great Dollyrots song about Cobra Kai. And this is the second episode
Could do
in a
that.
row that I want to talk extensively about Cobra Kai because my wife does not want to hear about this shit.
Hold on, I'm taking it on the Cobra Kai lyrics.
This is
And I have no one else to talk to.
Is this a Netflix show?
Cobra Kai, yes. It's
Okay.
it's the I can't believe I'm doing this again. I literally spent 35 minutes last episode, but I don't think I can stop. So Cobra Kai you remember the original Karate Kid trilogy, Ralph Macchio. So now it's again, I'm doing this
thing, man.
It's Daniel LaRusso and Sweep the Leg Johnny 30 years later and how their lives have turned out.
Oh,
Bill and Ted.
What's that?
Kind of like Bill and Ted. We just did it at the same time.
Yeah,
Just like Bill and
right.
Ted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Excellent.
We watched it last night. I cried at the end. That's how old I am now.
I got a little emotional too. Actually, it was good. It was very wholesome.
Am I crying?
And
Let's see.
but Cobra Kai takes itself dead seriously, which I love. I'm glad that they aren't being glib about it whatsoever. So that would be my recommendation. Everybody watch Cobra Kai because it's really fun.
All right.
Yeah, if you liked the original three, which I was kind of into, I think all of us were sort of into.
Yeah.
In terms of releases, anything, Mass, you mentioned you were working on a record. Kody, are you guys doing any sort of exchanging of song ideas or?
Yeah, we've got pretty much a whole record written already. Going to keep writing, and we're supposed to go into the studio in November to do a record if we can get Chuka across the border, I guess.
I think getting him here actually will be not that difficult.
But he can never go home.
He just can never leave again. Yeah, he's an American at that point.
Cool.
I was going to say, talking about Prescience stuff, I mentioned earlier that book, but the very first album that I mastered that came out this year was the Anti-Flag 2020 Vision. And basically right as they were getting ready to tour, the whole pandemic started, so they couldn't tour to support it. But there's the main song, like the first big single on that, There's a song called "We Are the Disease" that brings you to your knees, and it's like
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, that's kind of bad timing for a song like that.
Or the best timing ever.
Or the best.
Yeah. And then you know, Dollyrots, you mentioned you were writing a new record, and you're on your own label, so there's no one really kind of hammering.
Yeah, I mean, we've been putting them out through Wicked Cool, which is like Little Steven's label.
Oh, okay.
It's always like a, you know, you kind of one record at a time. It's like the best label.
Well, they just
honestly.
say like, make a record, and then they're like, oh, great, we like it, let's put it out, and it's been a really good relationship.
It works out really good. He's a super. I mean, people like labels say we are artist friendly, but like he is actually artist friendly. So we're just like, sure, let's run with it, you know, together.
That makes me so happy. Like to hear that Little Steven is actually.
He's
I grew up in Jersey, so Springsteen is my Lord and Savior.
I don't know where he gets his mental energy. Like I'm just like, man, that guy's kind of an inspiring figure.
And if you want to be entertained, just go check out his Twitter feed at night.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
good.
it's good.
It's good.
He gets louder at night. Yeah. It's good.
And that's on Sirius XM at Little Steven's Underground.
Yes, Channel 21.
Yeah.
Is that something you actually get a chance to put in your own playlist? Like you kind of get.
I do specials, but if I had to do my own playlist, it would be impossible. I make suggestions, and you know, I'm like heavy on the 70s, 80s punk because it's, you know, it's 1950s rock and roll to current for the most part. But every set has either the Rolling Stones, the Ramones, or the Who. So within each like 5-song block, there's one of those. Something psychedelic, an oldie, a girl group, you know, and then we throw in modern stuff.
And then we like sneak in our friends.
Yeah,
like,
I just play my friends.
At every opportunity, it's like, here you go. Let's have a little bad cop.
Yeah, it's like all of a sudden the ball pops are on the channel like every hour.
You know,
like it's cool.
So yeah, it works out. They're cool. They just want to hear rock and roll, so that's all right.
It's hard to not talk about the current situation every break, though. I just pretend everything's fine, and under my breath, I mutter how depressing shit is.
I think that's what I would want from a jock.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I sound so happy, but this shit's crazy.
And this will be the last question. What are you looking forward to, Kody?
Do me last, because I got to think about this.
Okay. Dollyrots, what are you looking forward to?
I want to play shows.
I just want to party.
Yeah.
The people that care about what we do, man. I just want to feel like the energy, because like we've been putting out all this stuff into this space, like the internet space, and like having that like get together for real gratification, the personal,
physical back and
like,
forth.
I'm gonna give you a hug, mofo. I haven't seen you in like 6 months. Like that. That's what we're missing.
And at our shows, I mean, we hang out with people.
Because, dude, you can
as
put
long
out
as
music
we can before we get kicked out. And so I feel like we're kind of energy vampires in a way where we need that to keep going. We need to like hug people and know that they care. And I don't know. It's weird. I don't know when we'll be able to do that.
Yeah. We're vampires up there. Sure. Yeah, we need it. So I hope it comes back as soon as it can. Like we've been reposting the Nivea, how do you pronounce it? Like
I know, I keep saying it like the lotion.
Neva. Not Neva.
Yes.
Yeah, the organization that's like trying to petition Congress to keep the
give money to the mid-sized venues.
You know,
because that's what we need.
Right.
We're encouraging people to go there, and you know, I mean, hopefully these venues survive.
Yeah.
You know, so that's where we're at.
Yeah. What about you, Mass?
I'd have to say a very different 2021. That's what I'm really hoping for. A lot of levels without saying anything too specific. I think you know what I'm saying. But yeah, missing hugs is a big thing. You know, I grew up, you know, in an Italian family where we all hugged each other. And of course, in my home, we still do. But the idea of like friends and, you know, all that, being able to go up and give someone a hug, it's like now I can't even imagine playing a normal punk show in this current situation.
I can't imagine Italians being in a room and not hugging. Like a lot of Italian friends, and it's just like
it just doesn't make. I mean, I'm just like going back, rewinding to the last time I saw a COVID person, which was last November. Imagine now that same scene, but with COVID.
Yeah.
All these people with masks, like only a fifth of them allowed into the venue, and nobody hugging each other. It's like,
Yeah.
like let's get past that crap. Let's go. Let's have that old world back again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Kody, did you think of something?
Yeah, I'm with the Dollyrots. I'm ready to go back on tour and see people, and looking forward for this COVID shit to end, so we can get back on with our lives.
Yeah.
Go to movies.
I personally can't wait to watch a Hallmark Christmas movie. I'm so ready for that shit. Like
I'm coming, don't worry.
I'm so bummed that Lori Loughlin's going to be in jail.
Oh, I know.
So I can't wait for that. Kelly and Louise, thank you so much for joining me. Kody, I appreciate it as well. Mass, glad to hear that your life has remained somewhat normal, and someday the hugs will come back. Because I get it, as an Italian, that must be like on a cellular level, you need it like heroin. People are touchy. You're touchy people. All right,
Mass a hug. Wait,
Yeah,
no, hold on. We're giving Mass a hug. Here you go.
Oh,
Dollyrots.
I'm gonna give a high five to Kody. Come over here.
Yeah. It's so confusing. Okay.
Yeah.
you can all do the elbow thing that I hope never. Yeah, there we go. You've been watching Birds and Holla. Thanks, everybody. Seriously, this has been really, really fun.
Got it,
for me.
man.
That's fun.
I love all your music and have been fans for a long, long time. We'll be back on Monday, facebook.com/Burns and Holla. Terry will be back, after spending time with his family. God damn him. I'm stuck here with my cat as my wife at work. Talk to you then. Thanks so much, everybody.
Bye,
Right
guys.
on. Nice hanging out, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
See ya. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Okay.
you.
You got it, dude.
That was
Look, we've
great.
been watching the kids on our monitor.
Oh,
That's their like. You'll never know.
Cheers. Thank
Hey,
you.
sorry
yeah.
we
This is actually filled with malt liquor.
Good.
That's
Oh, wait, look, I got like.
Well, I saw your thing. I was like, I should have hidden it. I should have put it in a teacup.
I even have a craft beer over here. I was sneaking a craft beer. I'm just like, I don't know. This is appropriate.
It's still the 17-year-old in me who's like, I have to sneak it in case my parents watch.
Yeah.
So, all right. Have a great weekend. Have a good Labor Day. See ya.
Thanks, dude.